Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. I hope you are having a fantastic day. If you're new to the channel, my name is Parker Nierenstein, and this is Vehicle Virgins. If you haven't yet copped your Vehicle Virgins merchandise, I got a link in the description below for that. We've got 3 awesome shirt designs and some hats as well. Every purchase helps support the channel, keep it alive, allows for travel opportunities, and new cool videos every single week. All right, let's jump in to the video. 5 years after Toyota showed us the beautiful FT1 concept, we finally have the all-new Toyota Supra. Now, we took a look at the Supra during the Detroit Auto Show, and there were some cool things about it, but I can't help but feel that Toyota missed the boat in a few major ways. Now, it's nice to see the legendary Supra nameplate come back, but here are 5 things I hate about the new Toyota Supra. First up is the ridiculous amount of fake vents. Vents are cool, whether they're for aerodynamic purposes or cooling purposes. It reminds you of a race car or of a high-end exotic. But fake vents are not cool and remind you of a Pep Boy Special or a Honda Civic with random things attached to it. Unfortunately, the new Toyota Supra has a whole host of fake badges. And I mean a lot of them. Starting with the front of the Supra, to the left and the right of the headlights are these little vents that are supposed to be for brake cooling. Only in this case, they're pieces of plastic and they don't actually do anything. Now, I understand trying to make the vehicle look cooler, and imitation is the sincerest form of flattery, but well, we could pass with maybe 1 or 2 fake vents. Get ready for how many the Toyota Supra has. So we have those fake brake cooling vents that, well, they don't do anything at all. I'm not quite sure why they couldn't have just cut holes in the fender to actually aid in brake cooling, but it doesn't stop there. Down below that, we have fake intake vents for cooling the engine. Now, part of the intake vents are real and the rest are not, namely because the engine doesn't need nearly as much airflow as the gaping vents might allow for. Kind of reminds me of the Ford Focus RS, where they realized there was actually too much air coming in through the intakes and they had to put a plate to block the airflow. Well, Toyota has done that with just blocking out the grills in their entirety. It doesn't stop there in the front. We also have vents on the sides of the hood. Now, normally these would be for heat extraction, so the hot air atop the engine is able to escape out the hood. But in this case, they are plastic and they don't do anything, so they just sit there and fake you out once again. Once again, I don't know why they couldn't have just cut holes into the hood that actually would have worked for cooling purposes and been functional. But the vent madness doesn't stop there, the most confusing of which are located on the sides of the Supra. Now, they actually look quite good. It's kind of reminiscent of large side intakes on a mid-engine supercar, although the reason there's side intakes on supercars is because they are mid or rear engine, and it allows extra cooling into the engine that otherwise wouldn't be possible because the engine is not located in the front. Well, the Supra is not mid-engine, it is front engine, so the presence of vents on the side don't actually make any sense. They are massive, they are very, very thin, and they are also made of plastic. I think it would have been better if they just made it a crease or a very hard body line instead of a vent, so you weren't once again faking. And it doesn't stop there. There are 2 fake vents on the rear as well. In theory, these vents might be for cooling the rear brakes or letting turbulent air from the wheel arches escape out the back, but they don't do anything once again. Like I said, 2 vents might be excusable, but there are literally 10 fake vents on the Toyota Supra's exterior, and it's starting to be a little bit ricer as a stock car. Next up, we have the power. Namely, there is not enough of it. It's been more than 20 years since we've seen the Mark IV Supra in the United States, and let's see how things have progressed since then. Compare them to the cars of the past, and then compare the new Supra to cars of the current market. Now, a 1996 turbo version of the Toyota Supra, the Mark IV, produced 320 horsepower and 315 pound-feet of torque. That's actually a lot For 1996, it was also able to do 0 to 60 miles an hour in 4.6 seconds. It's actually impressive figures by modern day standards. All right, so how does that compare to cars of the past? Well, let's compare it to a Ferrari of the time for an extreme comparison. The 355 in 1996 made 375 horsepower and 268 pound-feet of torque. So we've got 55 more horsepower, but significantly less torque. It was able to sprint from 0 to 60 in 4.7 seconds, which was actually slower than the Toyota Supra of the time. No wonder the almighty Mark IV Supra with its legendary 2JZ was so renowned for its ability to keep up with much more expensive exotic and sports cars of the time. Let's compare it to other vehicles of the time. A base model Corvette in 1996 with its 5.7-liter LT1 made 300 horsepower and 340 pound-feet of torque. So right around the same figures as the Supra. Now let's fast forward 24 model years to the 2020 Toyota Supra. It's got a 3-liter turbocharged inline 6, making 335 horsepower and 365 pound-feet of torque. So that means in 24 model years, it's only gained 15 horsepower. That's actually pretty staggering when you think about it. 15 horsepower in 24 years. That actually might be some sort of a record. Now, 0 to 60 has improved due to current technology. It's now 4.1 seconds, but that statistic actually rattles my mind. All right, let's compare it to the current day V8 Ferrari and current day base model Corvette. The current mid-engine Ferrari supercar is the 488. Now, the 488 makes 660 horsepower and 560 pound-feet of torque. So nearly double the new generation Toyota Supra, whereas it was basically within spitting distance of the Supra of the past. That is a crazy difference. Now let's compare it to the Corvette of modern day, the Stingray. The Stingray makes 460 horsepower and 465 pound-feet of torque. It's also able to do 0 to 60 faster than the Supra and costs right around the same amount of money. So the Ferrari has advanced quite a bit, as has the Corvette, but the Supra, not so much in terms of power. Next up is the price. The Toyota Supra starts at $50,920. That's right, $50,000 for a Toyota. And the 3.0 premium trim level starts at $55,000. So how does that compare to cars of similar style and spec? Well, for $10,000 less, you can get a Mustang GT Premium. That comes with 460 horsepower and can do 0 to 60 faster than the Toyota Supra. For about the same price as the Supra is the Corvette Stingray. Also comes with 460 horsepower, 0 to 60 in 3.7 seconds. Also think it looks a lot better as well, and it weighs a bit less than the Toyota Supra and would likely spank it around the racetrack. Now, it's not all about horsepower, but both cars also sound a lot better than the Supra as well. Next, let's compare the Toyota Supra to its brother and co-developed car, the BMW Z4. It shares many components of the Z4 in the interior, as well as the chassis and the powertrain. The Z4, interestingly enough, the base model actually will set you back $500 less than the Toyota Supra. Now, the base model Z4 does come with an inline 4. You've got to pay about $15,000 more than a base model Supra for the more powerful 6-cylinder in the M40i version of the Z4. But you can get a BMW for $500 less than the basically mechanically equivalent Supra. You're getting a much more prestigious badge for the same amount of money, which is very interesting and begs the question, why would you get the Supra over the BMW Z4? Then we come to the interior. The interior of the BMW has a lot nicer materials, more use of metal, whereas the Supra goes for plastic. Then some more interior amenities. The BMW Z4 as standard comes with a 10.25-inch screen. It also has this backup assistant. And the Supra comes standard with a 6.6-inch screen. You also have to remember the Z4 is a convertible, so if you value top-down driving experience, it gives you a more versatile car than the coupe-only Supra does. I also think the BMW Z4 looks nicer, and it also has much less fake vents, so that's a plus. Well, this doesn't matter to a lot of people. When somebody asks you what you drive and you say a Toyota versus a BMW, there is a big perception difference, and especially when you're spending the same amount of money, it's kind of hard to wrap your head around. Next up, and one of my biggest gripes about the Toyota Supra is the fact that it doesn't come available with a manual transmission. This is a huge disappointment because it's exactly what the Toyota Supra needed. It's a car to appeal to enthusiasts. It's lightweight, it's nimble, and it's just begging for a manual transmission. Especially when you compare it to other cars. The Corvette is available with a manual transmission. The Mustang is available with a manual transmission. And the slightly more expensive but significantly cooler BMW M2 Competition is also available with a manual transmission. Now, the new BMW Z4 doesn't have the availability of a manual transmission. But imagine if Toyota had a manual for the Supra. It would be a huge reason to buy the Supra over the BMW. But as they are basically the same car and one has a more prestigious brand, it's kind of challenging to see why you'd opt for the Supra. No manual, I think it's a big missed opportunity there. The last thing I hate about the Toyota Supra was their timeline and marketing strategy, basically known as the worst kept secret in automotive history. In today's day and age, people get bored very quickly, which is why auto manufacturers do a very good job at making sure cars are hidden until the last possible second so that when they're revealed, it's fresh, it's new, it's exciting, and the hype builds right when the car hits the streets. Well, Toyota did the exact opposite with the Supra. 5 years ago, we had the FT1 concept, and nearly every single year after that, it was basically teased and hinted that maybe we'd see the Toyota Supra at the next upcoming major auto show. It reminds me of the Acura NSX. I saw it at Pebble Beach so many years before the actual car came out that by the time the NSX hit the street, nobody cared. It's kind of the exact same thing that happened with the Supra. It's become a bit of a laughingstock of the automotive community. It also meant there is so much time to elapse between when we initially heard about it and it hit the streets for disappointing information to come out about the car. We've heard about it for so many years, and then to come to find out that it doesn't have a manual transmission, it doesn't actually have all that much horsepower. The looks are nowhere near as impressive as the FT1 concept. I think that's one of the biggest disappointments, is that was such a stunning vehicle. If they had made it look significantly more like the FT1, I think the Supra would have gotten a much more positive reaction from the crowd when it was finally released at the Detroit Auto Show. They needed to do something crazy when they've been teasing the car for 5 years, building up all that much hype, and they basically gave us as much of a toned-down version of the concept as they possibly could have, riddled with fake vents and an automatic transmission. Now, that's not to say that the Supra is a terrible car by any means. These are just some major downsides to it. I imagine when we do a full review of the Supra, it is going to be fun to drive. It's 3,400 pounds. It doesn't weigh very much. 0 to 60 in 4.1 seconds is very quick, but it just seems underwhelming compared to what it could have been. Does it live up to the legendary Mark IV Supra? I think no. To see if I wasn't the only one who wasn't completely overwhelmed with the Toyota Supra, I posted on my Instagram @VehicleVirgins and asked you guys what you thought of the new Supra. Let's read some of the comments to see what you guys think. From Royalty Exotic Cars with 409 likes, thumbs down ×2. Not a fan, looks like an RX-8, interesting. Wrecked Z4. Overpriced and underpowered. This is a comment I like. It's what the GT86 should have been. Supra should be pushing the GTR around. I absolutely agree. I feel like the Supra should be the modern day GTR. a less expensive alternative to a supercar that's able to hang with the pack, which is exactly in 2009 when the GTR came out, what it was able to do. Now it's not even remotely in the same realm of supercars. All this weight, and this is what Toyota came up with. Yuck. Yeah, it was a long wait, terrible, looks like a Miata with a body kit. This is essentially the same thing that happened with the NSX. People were so quick to judge because it's not similar to the original. That being said, the new NSX is a beautiful car. Supra should fall into the same boat. Please stop hating because it looks different. BMW Supra, here's a good point. On paper, it's a great car, but I don't think they should have stuck the Supra badge on it. The original Supra was built, bred, and perfected in Japan, a true JDM hero and a testament to their skill at building pure sports cars. This one is basically a BMW in a Japanese shell. Now, BMW and Toyota did co-develop the car, but after they did agree on the A-pillar points as well as the length and the chassis, they did split separate ways. So in terms of the tuning of the suspension and the handling characteristics, they are different, but they did come out pretty similar. Needs a 2JZ swap. Now, I read something that said the motor mounts for the new Supra are actually perfectly aligned to fit a 2JZ. I actually don't know if this is true or not. If you guys know, comment in the comment section below, but that would be one cool saving grace. Now, unfortunately, they're not giving the lesser powered version in the United States with a 4-cylinder. That would have been the cheaper car you could buy, take the motor out, get a 2JZ, beef it up, and make it an actually pretty interesting car. So you have to buy the more expensive 6-cylinder and then pull the motor. But a 2JZ swap new Supra could be a pretty cool option. Toyota missed out on making this the new Scion FRS Turbo. That is what this car should have been, as it essentially kind of is an FRS Turbo. Well, 1,279 comments, at least 1,000 of which are negative. Damn. That being said, I do think it's a decent looking car and it's going to be fun to drive, but not quite as good as its competition. Well, there you guys have it. 5 things I hate about the Toyota Supra. Honestly, for the price, I think your best bet is to buy a used BMW M2. Much better looking, sounds better, and well, it's a BMW. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Like always, please browse the channel and subscribe. I look forward to seeing you next video.